I just want to show you what happened here. I was trying to take the oil pump mounting bolts out and couldn't get them with a screwdriver, so I broke out the impact driver. I was able to get two of these bolts out. The third one had to drill it, and it appears to have broken off. I don't know about you, but I think that gear looks like a scared panda. He's even more scared now that I'm unscrewing his eyes. There was obviously Loctite on these. I didn't want to put a lot of heat into it because of the nylon gear and whatever seals are inside this pump. So it looks like we're going to order 3 bolts for this oil pump. Here I am heating the journal, getting ready to drop the bearings in. I want to note that the bearings do go in seal side down. All of these shafts are pressurized by the oil pump, and the seal prevents the oil from leaking back into the case. I do want to mention that this case was very dirty from the factory, so I cleaned it out real good with brake cleaner and paper towels before I started assembling it. I heated this journal up pretty good, and I had the bearing packed in snow to cool it. I was hoping it would have dropped right in, but it's fine. It went in very easy, very straight. Here I am just going to confirm the depth of the bearing as compared to the old case. The other bearings were installed into the housing the same way as the first one. I heated everything up with a propane torch, froze the bearings, and tapped them in. Pretty straightforward. Here I am showing the differences in the cases. That's the stock gear. They milled out that little portion, that little circle, and fly cut the case to allow that gear to fit in. And here you can see the new gear where it's hitting that boss right there. On the new half, there's a notch that allows the gear teeth to slip through. Once it slides past, it'll spin freely on the bearing. Here you can see the speed sensor. If you were to insert it without the shim, the speed sensor would hit the gear. So there's a shim included in the kit that will offset that speed sensor. Here I am just looking at the shift fork and the gear stack ups, just getting ready to remove them to change the gears. The two shift forks need to be removed before the gear stacks can come out. Two HC4 goes on the top. Two HC5 goes on the bottom. Finally. I have the video sped up here so you can see me struggle with a C-clip. Once that disaster of a C-clip was off, it was as simple as sliding off the gear with the bearing. That's a synchronizer plate. Those are keyed, so they only fit together one way. Once that was in, I simply slid the new gear and bearing on and replaced the C-clip. On to the next shaft. It's pretty much the same process. Fight with the C-clip, change two gears, reinstall the C-clip, and you're good to go. Now that the gears are changed, simply just putting the gears back into the case. They have to be lined up and placed in together. After that, I'll put the shift forks in, and that's where we're at the end of this video. I'm currently waiting for my sealant to come in. I ended up using 3-bond. I think it's 3-bond 1215 is what the shop manual recommended. here I am installing the shift forks. It's important that all the shift forks are lined up and that they are engaged in the shift quadrant. Once it was together, I ran through the gears by hand several times to make sure that it shifted smooth and I had all my gears available. This is the reversed idler gear. In this setup, on the rod you have a washer, the bearing, the gear, and another washer on top. This part is going to be a fight when the other half of the case gets assembled. Here's me running through the gears by hand. I'm just testing to make sure that every gear engages and that the shifting action is smooth. It's kind of hard to do this by hand when it's not rotating, but it did go freely into all gears.
First. Second, third,
This is the end of the second video. I hope you enjoyed it. The next video we'll be putting in an oil pump and reassembling the case halves.